G'day everyone, Brian here. Just a quick intro to the channel with my background. This is a hobby for me, the YouTube thing. I've got a couple of other hobby channels as well, and if I can share something with you that's interesting, that's great. But it's also a great way to capture memories and keep them, because you can keep your channel private. It doesn't have to be public, and you can just have it there for yourself to bring back memories of whatever you're into and what you're doing at the time. I think a lot of people think that you've got to make money out of YouTube. I've been retired for a couple of years. I don't need to make money out of this channel at all. Again, if you find it interesting, that's great. Hit the subscribe and just follow. But my background in travel, Brian Somewhere. So I've got, as I said, I've got a couple of other YouTube channels. One specifically about wildlife. I've done a lot of safaris in different parts of the world. And the other one's about Japanese whiskey, which I've had a blog about for 10 years. So again, just sharing hobbies and passions is pretty much what I'm about. Don't expect fancy production values or anything. I'm just going to be me. I'm not trying to follow in anyone's footsteps whatsoever. But it is fun, and I do enjoy the YouTube side of it. And every now and again, yeah, I just kick back and look at videos of places where I've been and safaris I've been on. It's just a great way of having those there stored, and you don't have to pay anything for it as well. So going back, well, I started the travel thing in 1985, and I was 20 years old, and I did the Europe backpacking thing in 1985 and 1986, with a little bit on the side in the US, because I'd met some people from the States in Europe, and I got to travel in the States and never pay for accommodation. You know, I ended up living in the States for a while, the end of the 80s for a couple of years, primarily in San Francisco, but I have been to different parts of the country as well. So also during that time when I was in Europe, I went to Turkey, I went to Israel, I went to Egypt, and in the latter part of the 80s I also went down to South America for a few months, so Brazil, Uruguay and Argentina. I went back to the States a few times between the 80s and the 2000s. Life kind of took a turn and the travel's kind of slowed down a bit, so life got in the way, for want of a better word, of what I really love doing, which is travelling. So met my partner Nicole 18 years ago, and we've been happily travelling ever since, because she'd also been to Europe, lived in the UK, travelled around Europe. So we hit it off straight away when we said, what do you like to do? What's your favourite thing to do? And we both said travel, and that was it. And we've been together ever since. We actually took our first trip, and I'd never been to Southeast Asia before then. She booked a trip to Malaysia already. She already had that on the cards, and we met up there. That was our first trip after about 3 months together. Currently that's Bangkok, obviously in the background, because previous videos that I would have posted are in Bangkok, and some of the ones coming up are obviously going to be in Bangkok. But we took our first trip to Thailand. We haven't been back since then. That was like 17-ish, a bit over 17 years ago. We're going to make the most of it this time, because we're here for about 2.5 months overall, with side trips to Cambodia and Borneo. So I looked it up, I calculated. Now obviously we had a couple of years where none of us were really travelling. We did some travel in Australia. For those who want to know, yes, I have travelled in my own country. I've been to every state. I've been to the Northern Territory, and I've also been to Norfolk Island, which is administered to by the state of New South Wales currently. So I have travelled in my own country as well. But this is, gosh, our 38th time in Asia overall in that period of time. So that includes China, that includes multiple times in India, many times in Japan, and so on and so forth. So lots of places. The only place we haven't been to that I can think of, or countries, are Laos and Myanmar. They're the only two in Southeast Asia that I can think of. We've even been into little Brunei, which is the principality on Borneo. So, but overall, this is our 58th trip in 18 years, and 2 of those we couldn't travel. So we're mad keen travellers, and we've been fortunate now that Nicole, who can work as a digital nomad, so we did a test run last year. We've been to Africa 10 times, and we spent, gosh, it was it was 9 weeks. We spent 9 weeks in Africa. South Africa was a bit of a test run for being able to do these longer stays where we're travelling, but Nicole can also work. We're very grateful that we have that opportunity, so we're going to do this. We've got later on in the year, we've got other trips that are going to be planned, but in this one, as I said, we've got 4 countries. We have to do a visa run that we weren't expecting, because initially it was a 45-day tourist visa when we booked our flight. Now it's 30, so that's okay. Looking forward to going back to Cambodia. Have been to Siem Reap before, and that's where we're going to go for like a long weekend, 3 nights. Go back there. It's only an hour from Bangkok on a very cheap flight and cheap accommodation, cheap place to go to. So we're excited, the fact that we had to change our plans and we're going to Cambodia. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Again, that's just a little bit of my background. Just to give you, so I've never been to the Arctic or the Antarctic, but I've flown over both. So kind of seen them from the air from a great height, but multiple times, 4 times in Central America. I've been a total of 6 times in South America, and we really enjoy these days traveling to more exotic locales that are very different to where we come from. We're not so much interested in going to Western places like westernized places like Europe, despite the beauty and the history. We're more into a totally different culture than what we're used to back home. So that's kind of how we travel. So with a mix of city stays and then a lot of wildlife stuff as well, where we go out into reserves and jungle and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's a very wild places in like Nicaragua and Bolivia during this time that we've been away. So I hope that gives you a bit of an idea of the background. The aim of the channel is just to share and have a record for myself. So if you enjoy, just hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and let's see what we can do. As I said, not trying to follow in anyone's footsteps, not interested in that. I'm a pretty experienced traveler, so I'm just going to try to do it my way. So take care. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye for now.